Well, how about that? The joker in the pack this evening turned out to be Mark Webber, sending Lewis Hamilton off the track. Great Grand Prix, though. And it's amazing that you come to a tight street race where in the past the racing hasn't been fantastic, and being 2010, it delivers, doesn't it?
Well, I think it delivers for a variety of reasons, and one of those, of course, is the closeness of the championship, and we've seen that.
Yeah.
Look, in many respects, it was quite a boring race. If you just looked at start to finish and you looked at the stats in your morning paper tomorrow, you say Alonso pole position, flagged, pole to flag for the win race. It was anything but that. There was lots of excitement. I mean, particularly the Hamilton situation. Mark Webber, very forceful, and, he showed signs of a situation where he hasn't been perfect overtaking in the past. This was a very big day for Mark Webber, and may turn out to be a major day in the results of this World Championship for him.
OK, it is, of course, the F1 Forum. We want you guys to get in touch. f1@bbc.co.uk is the email address. You can get involved on Twitter, @JakeHumphreyF1. Talk about, I don't know, Heikki Kovalainen's fireworks, which we're just about here, where these guys are standing at the moment. Maybe you want to talk about Michael Schumacher crashing and bashing his way around and knocking off both of the Saubers, or, of course, where we are with regards to the championship. Now, I know you're going to go and speak to the fans in just a moment, but first, DC's got something he wants to share with us over by Parc Ferme. David, what have you spotted, mate?
Well, I've got to say, actually, Eagle Eye Ted Kravitz has spotted this, and I'm just going to deliver the news. If we can zoom in there on Mark Webber's front wheel, front right tyre, see the gap between the bead of the tyre and the wheel. Now, that is the furthest I've ever seen a bead of a tyre be off a rim and still be in place. Now, if we can just zoom across to Sebastian Vettel's front wheel, and you'll see what it's meant to look like. Mark Webber may well be the luckiest man out on the track there today, because that is quite remarkable that the tyre can be that far and remain in place. A few years ago, of course, when they used to use lots of sort of solution, like a fairy liquid type solution to mount these tyres, that would have popped the tyre off the bead and he would have had a puncture immediately.
So what we're saying, David, is Mark Webber is a lucky boy to get to the end of that Grand Prix and stay in the lead in the championship.
Lucky is a bit of an understatement, as I said. I guarantee you, when they take that wheel to the Bridgestone tyre fitters afterwards, they'll just be able to lean on it and it'll pop off the bead.
Oh, amazing, amazing. Right, Eddie, do you want to go and chat to the fans? I know you love this. Yeah,
go on. This is my forte. I adore this. So we're going to have... We've got so many gorgeous people to talk to. We want to try and find out what makes this place, Singapore, so special. Look, what an attractive girl we've got here. What's your name?
My name's Holly.
I'm sorry?
My name's Holly.
Where are you from, Holly?
I'm from near Norwich.
Oh, not another one. We hate Norwich, don't we? Jake, never! Is this conspiracy? Jake is from Norwich, if you didn't know. Well, have you come to see Jake? Are you one of Jake's fans or something like that?
Fan of the BBC, Eddie.
Oh, come on, you must be... But with that action, are you living in England, or are you working out here, or what's happening?
Living in England and come especially over for the Grand Prix.
You must have a tasty little job to be able to afford all this kind of carry-on. Have you been rocking at night? That's what I wanted.
Of course.
Where have you been? Because I haven't seen you out there at night.
Clark's Quay.
Oh, my God. I think, Jake, we have a fan of yours, and we're going to talk to somebody else. You've got a McLaren vest on you. Were you disappointed in the way Hamilton was treated on this particular race, or did you think it was a justifiable move by Webber?
I don't think it was a justifiable move at all.
Yeah, but the stewards have an inquiry, and all four of them decided that it was fair.
Passed already. I mean, he already in front of the car at the corner, so...
Well, it's a matter of opinion, of course, but, the stewards, they have their say. We've seen all the different angles from the television, and one has to accept that we take a trust in the stewards. They found nothing to really report on, so it wasn't and hasn't been Lewis's last two races. It's been difficult for him in particular. Thank you for your time. Now, what's your name?
John, from Manchester.
Don't tell me you're out on a freebie holiday as well. Is that true?
Yeah, it is.
And so you're working tomorrow in Manchester, I presume?
No, I've got another week off, actually, before I go back to work, so...
What makes you want to come to Singapore? And more especially, when you answer that, is this an amazing place, an amazing experience?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a very personal track. You're very close with the cars compared to other races that you're quite distant from, so... Yeah, it's one in a million. It's a must-see for anybody.
Now, are you going to suggest to me you know the result of Manchester United today, and was it Wigan or Bolton? What's the score?
Well, DC!
Oh, look, we've got hero man here.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt this conversation about football while we're at a Formula 1 Grand Prix, but I had to just excuse myself because I have a flight to go back home, so I'm just saying goodbye to everyone watching at home.
Can we say goodbye to DC? He's leaving me on my own.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for your time. Come on, we need somebody. Where are you from?
Hello, yes?
From the Philippines.
From the Philippines. You've come specially for this race?
No, I've been staying here in Singapore for work. Yeah, and watch the weekend for the race.
What I'd like to know is about the build-up for this race with the Singaporean people who have come here to work. Is it exciting? Is it something that encapsulates, you know, your mind, where you work and you've lost the traffic, you can't obviously drive down these roads. What is it like in the build-up for the race?
Yeah, of course, for the few weeks before the race, right, there are a lot of constructions going on, so the roads are closed. Some people might get pissed off because of the traffic, but still in the end, they will enjoy this weekend.
Even I have to say, we don't use those words on BBC, and I'm probably one of the last people who should say that, but thank you for your time.
Eddie, but I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll come and get you from here in a couple of days. Is that okay? But we've got to get into the highlights of the Grand Prix.
We're on the way.
All right, you go and chat to people, and I'll come and collect him on Wednesday afternoon or something when he's finished talking to the fans. Well, we check out the highlights of an incredible Singapore Grand Prix. Bring up here for another F1 forum. You can see the technical guys just getting ready. Andy on the camera there. Not sure what Eddie's doing. He's managed to locate a box of tissues. And Martin, look at this, is getting a worthwhile and well-earned bottle of water over there before we speak to him about what happened in that Grand Prix. But something I just want to show you around here, actually, is what we call the pen. And you can see why it's called the pen, because they create, using tensor barriers, this square. And this is what happens to the drivers. They get brought straight in here. So when we speak to Lee McKenzie, and you can see Lee over the other side just there, gearing up to chat to the drivers. They go in there and they get paraded round, and if the media want to speak to a certain driver, they stop and they chat. So that's what happens if you haven't made it onto the podium. If you have made it onto the podium, though, you go into the press conference, and we can have that right now.
Fernando, another pole to flag victory, but you had to work extremely hard for this one in every sense. Just 0.2 seconds, the winning margin.
Yeah, obviously, race was tough, race was long, and with the safety car problems and also the people we were lapping, especially at the end. We found a group of 5 cars that they lost 1 lap, and it was difficult to lap them. It was yellow flag on the straight because the Lotus problem, the car on fire, so we could not overtake there. So it was difficult to manage the gap with the guys in front, not to overtake under the yellow or anything like that. So a lot of precaution in the last couple of laps, taking very easy. We know how difficult it is to overtake here, so I just controlled the gap with Sebastian as much as I could and not taking any risk.
Sebastian, you pushed him to the absolute limit today, but it wasn't to be. Did you ever think at any stage of the race that it might be on, particularly in the closing stages?
Well, obviously, you know, it was the only chance I had. Unfortunately, in the beginning, I had to let him go a little bit. And then towards the end of the first stint, the soft tyres were pretty much at the end. The car was sliding a lot. We came in at the same lap. Unfortunately, pit stop, I did a little mistake, but I think it would have been very close. So after that, you know, and that's the story of the whole race. I tried to push him as hard as I could into a mistake. He didn't do a major mistake. So as he said, obviously it's difficult to overtake here, and it would have been too risky. So in the end, we got away with second. Good points. But the most important is that the car is quick, competitive all weekend. There was a bit missing yesterday, and probably that was what was missing today. At a very good start, so I think we made good progress on that. Yeah, in the end, you know, it's good to get good points for the team. It helps us a lot in the Constructors' Championship, and you know, in the Drivers' Championship, still everything is open.
Well done. Mark, you took a big gamble on tyre strategy early on in the race. It paid off, but what about that collision with Lewis Hamilton?
Well, first of all, back to the start. The start was pretty good, so thanks very much to the team there. As Seb touched on, he had a pretty good one too, so that's good for us to get away and sets the base of the race in a better fashion. And settle into the first stint, safety car early, and then, as you say, we decided to pit. I questioned the team to start with, and then they said, it's the right thing, let's have a go. So we pitted, and I thought, it's going to be a long stint on the primes. And we come back out, and when we re-queued up on the safety car, I thought, OK, that's not too bad. You know, I'm in a reasonable position. Passed a few guys, and then I got to Rubens, and he was driving very well, couldn't clear him. And then another restart, and then, yeah, just it's very, very difficult to get away cleanly when you have the back markers involved, you know. So I got caught up, I think, behind, well, definitely one of the Virgins. I don't know which driver it was, but he was doing his best, but Lewis just got a big run on me. So, you know, it was pretty harsh for me to have to try and clear those guys. He could sort of set me up and have a crack at me, and unfortunately we've made contact. I mean, obviously the contact was similar to what he had in Monza with Felipe, and it could have been easier, my front right tyre over as well. So it's not desirable. It was a key part of the race, obviously, for me to keep him out, and there was contact. So, you know, it's not something that you want to do all the time. And then after that, I had I would say, a pretty decent vibration in the front end of the car. Very worried the car would get home to the end. So very inconsistent left to right, and that's it. But these two guys drove a fantastic race today. All weekend they drove very well, and you know, it was good that it was a good race for everyone to see, and I'm very happy with third. Thanks.
Well done. Back to Fernando.
It was indeed a good race, Mark Webber, and you should indeed be very happy with third, because it keeps Mark Webber at the top of the driver's standings. We'll look at those in just a few moments. But for Fernando Alonso, it's 2 podiums, 2 wins. Sebastian Vettel finishing second and Mark Webber third. Remember, we came here thinking this really would be a Red Bull circuit. Jenson Button finishing fourth. Lewis Hamilton out of the points today. What an amazing drive towards the end there by Robert Kubica, who finished his 7th. And then we get down to some of the more frustrated drivers. Felipe Massa picked up 1 point. That's from starting at the very back of the grid. Michael Schumacher had a rather interesting day, didn't he? Managing to knock out a few of the cars. Heikki Kovalainen finished in a fiery mess. I've just had a look at Twitter and the emails. Lots of messages coming in about Lotus and whether they should face further sanctions because of stopping on the track with all those flames. And of course, Lewis Hamilton picked up no points today. And as far as the first man outs, the unlucky Antonio Liuzzi struggling once again. What will happen to his seat next year, I wonder? But this is what it all means. Mark Webber remains the leader. It's now an 11-point gap between him and Fernando Alonso. So Fernando jumps ahead of Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel jumps ahead of Jenson Button. And then we head down to Felipe Massa, who's now 77 points behind and very much now supporting his Ferrari teammate, who's well in the hunt. And as far as the Constructors' Championship is concerned, it's getting tight. Red Bull, then 24 points down to the McLaren and 67 down to Ferrari, who are now on 316 points. And all this after Ferrari were really struggling just a few Grand Prix ago. Well, Martin, we saw the drivers there in the press conference. I'm not surprised if you're out of puff after such a long Grand Prix. It shows you how fit they are, though, that they can race around here in this kind of heat for a couple of hours and sit and chat for our benefit.
Yeah, we've done it. I mean, in sports car racing, you get the same thing where you do quadruple stints or something, and your core just gets so hot. You can't get away from yourself with the temperature. You don't know where to put yourself. And I think that's, I recognise that in Fernando Alonso when he sat there just pouring water on and taking a breath, and it is a manic track, and he said to me also, you know, there's no time to take a breath when you're out on the racetrack. It's so tough.
Okay, well, let's go through a few emails that have been rolling in then, and there are plenty of them. Should Heikki Kovalainen be punished? That's the first one. Just knock through a few of these initial impressions on that moment.
Difficult at the end of the race, isn't it, Martin? You know, he's wanted to bring it home. It's very important for those teams at the back. I'd like to, if I was a steward, I'd want to hear his rationale, why he was there a position that he could have gone to. Difficult call.
Well, we've been told that the reason Heikki made that decision was because he probably took a look down the pit lane and saw numerous people, and of course a lot of those are no longer wearing fire safety gear because there's no longer refueling in Formula One. So he made the decision to go down the pit lane.
You can't see the pit lane, I don't think, because you go around that wall. So be surprised. Well, I'd be fascinated if he took that decision. But remember that they're fighting with Virgin Racing, they're fighting with HRT, and they're not going to score points most likely. So it's an 11th or a 12th that is going to make the difference, and it's a huge amount of cash that we're talking about.
That was a pretty huge fire.
But there is no justification whatsoever for a car that's on fire and turning out of the pit lane back onto the start-finish line.
Now, David was pretty angry about this, Eddie. He was saying, look, there's no fire extinguishers there. You've got cars coming around there at incredible speeds. You've got smoke going right across the pit lane. He said if someone has a suspension failure or a brake failure coming around there, you've got a driver with his back to the line of traffic.
Well, you know, on the back of every entrance ticket it says motor racing is dangerous. You have to have some element. What was the best thing? To have a potential explosion and in that position. Full marks to Kovalainen for actually having the guts and, if you like, the bravery to get in there with a fire extinguisher. He did a brilliant job, let it be said. He should be a fire marshal at any stage because he did a remarkable job. This car was well alight at that moment.
OK, well, we can hear from Heikki now in his new job as fire marshal at Formula One races. Here he is.
Heikki Kovalainen, Lotus driver and part-time marshal. In all seriousness, it looked pretty scary out there at the end.
Yeah, obviously it looks always dramatic when it's like that. Obviously I saw the car caught the fire just before the pit entry, and I thought I don't want to go to pit lane with this kind of car, you know, if it explodes in the middle of the people there. So I tried to keep it on the main straight, and then I was looking for a fire marshal. I could not find any of them. So then I just stopped in front of Williams and I said, boys, please give me some extinguisher, because now it's a bit of a problem. And luckily I got it stopped reasonably quickly. So there's a bit of damage, but no one got hurt. That's the main thing.
And just tell us about your race, because I think you were spinning towards the end as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good race for us. I think the strategy worked out really well for us. It was quite cool to be lapping virgins. So during the safety car, I think we managed to get away very well. And the performance was good. I think the strategy was good. The tyres were working well. All the virgins were very quick this weekend. I think today the team made excellent calls on the strategy, and we managed to jump them. And then just at the end, obviously with Michael and Buemi, I wanted to put a fight on them. Michael caught me by a bit of surprise, so I'm a bit disappointed I didn't put any more fight on him. But then on Buemi, I saw that he was sort of trying to overtake, and I gave him a bit of a room, and I thought I'd get away with it, but he just tapped me and I just lost it, and that's when the fire started. But it's better like that. It's better to fight rather than just let them go.
Well done, thank you.
Well, it was indeed a good weekend for Lotus until that point. Of course, Lotus and Virgin have both looked good this weekend. This is no way to celebrate, though, announcing that you're going to be Team Lotus from now on, and it's a good job he jumped out of that car quickly.
Well, I thought he was taking forever to get out of the car, and I questioned what, if the mirrors had been like they were in Martin's day or other people's day, then they would have seen the extent of this fire. For me, it was virtually frightening, because it was just going out of control, and once you get a fire like that out of control, well, you have all sorts of big problems. And so I was concerned that he wasn't getting out of the car himself quickly enough.
It feels strange having no David Coulthard here, doesn't it? He's jetted off to get a flight back to Europe quickly.
Yeah, he's touch and go, isn't he? He's still going to struggle to make it, so well, had to get on. I think he's in Austria tomorrow night, and then he's DTM soon. He's got loads on.
These forums can be quite long, so if he misses the flight to the airport, he could probably head back, and we'll still be on air chatting, and he can join in with the fun. Let's go back then to the start of the Grand Prix, Martin, and take a look at how it worked out. And pretty aggressive here from Fernando Alonso, wasn't it?
Yeah, I thought that the red lights were on a long time, and Alonso, he left him a space, and pretty early on, actually, you have to say, Sebastian Vettel decided it was too acute an angle to head towards turn 1 at, and he got out of it. So it was intimidatory, but it worked perfectly, didn't it? And it was a crucial moment in the race too. And here we go again. You can see in the background, I think it's Barrichello having a very poor start as well, but that was quite a squeeze, but there was much more than the width of a Red Bull left. So I think it was fair enough, but bordering on overly aggressive. But I wonder if Sebastian will look at this. Here we go, on board him. I wonder if he'll look at this and think, I wish I'd have carried on down the inside. Didn't look that much space from on board him, did there?
Wasn't a bad start, considering Red Bull have struggled quite badly with their starts. He got away quite cleanly.
Yes, particularly I think he did remarkably well. He was on the dirty side of the track, and I think it was more an average start by Alonso rather than a brilliant start by Vettel, but nevertheless they drove immaculately, because this could have been a major incident.
And was Jensen not aggressive enough there, Martin, losing out to Lewis at that first corner?
Yeah, I think Lewis had his racing head on earlier than Jensen there, and the more angles I see, the more I now realise why Vettel got out of it so early. Here we go, Jensen's away.
He's ahead there, isn't he?
Yeah, he is, and he was super cautious, wasn't he? Cost him. Almost like he wanted Lewis to go past. Sure, he didn't. But every time I see another version, I realise that chop of Alonso's was bordering on being out of order, actually. But the overhead camera looks like it's fairly OK, but there wasn't much space, was there? But Jensen's already down in fourth then, and of course it would unfold later on. Let's have another look then from on board Vettel and just see how much space we were left by Alonso. Yeah, Alonso just kept going, didn't he? It was absolutely the right decision from Vettel. Alonso just kept going right over to the side of the track. I think actually he might disappear under the bridge from the overhead view at that point.
Is that a case of have a bit of your own medicine, Eddie? Because you said to Sebastian you don't start very well in Grand Prix, because he had this tendency to leap across in front of the guy who was sitting in second, and that seems to have been a bit of a tendency that we've seen in the racing this year.
Well, it's a very defensive mechanism. It normally happens in pole position because they have that extra pressure. They're sitting in front of everybody and they're waiting for the lights to happen. Now, in my view, and I must make this point, I still believe that the pole position is on the wrong side there, even though it would be on the dirty side, because there was no advantage by being on the far outside right. He had to come across the defender's side into the inside, but the first corner was a left-hander. You know, I would have preferred to have seen the pole possibly on the other side.
Okay, well, if people at home are wondering how they decide where the pole position goes, it goes on the racing line, Martin. That's the way they make that decision.
Yes, there's not always a racing line on the pit straight, though, so it is dependent on which way the first corner turns as well, because sometimes the car's diagonal the straight, so there's no clear, clean and dirty side. Here, there is very much an obviously clean side, the side that's constantly hoovered up.
So if you're going to come to the right to turn left at the end of a pit straight, they would generally put the pole on the right-hand side if there's no natural racing line.
But you're on the outside.
Which flies in the face of logic, because really what Alonso did, and Martin is absolutely right, you know, it's a marginal call. He moved from a very clean line to a dusty line to block his opponent, and because it was a tardy start.
We don't mind seeing a bit of that in Formula One, though, do we?
Well, it's now a familiar occurrence. It doesn't. No penalties ever seem to be given out for them, Martin, do they? The last couple of races, the people are moving across.
I think had Vettel have been up alongside him and there'd been contact, I think he'd have been penalised, frankly, and rightly so. The more, as I say, the more I see it, the more I realise how aggressive it was.
This is an email from the Roo. Says, can you think of anyone who's done more passes this year than Mark Webber? I'm guessing the Roo means that they're Australian, so they're slightly biased. But actually, they say that surely he's put himself forward as the overtaker of the year, especially when his teammate in the same car doesn't seem to be able to pass anyone without crashing. They're only slightly biased in favour of Mark Webber, but we can have a look at a few of his overtakes today. And is there a case for the fact that this is a guy who, as well as being out and out fast, can overtake and he can race?
Yeah, you've got to wonder why he's putting himself in positions to overtake, but this was a strategy situation, and he did it beautifully. He has put in some great overtakes. They've all been quality, but I think Hamilton's probably got the lead on that. I think he'd done about 34 competitive overtakes, hadn't he, by mid-season or something. But this was beautifully done. You know, Mark's leading the World Championship at this point, and still is. And so these are all risky moves.
What I'm impressed about Mark in particular is that he started the season very sloppy, just not in control.
Taking Schumacher
and he has learned. I remember going to do an interview with him, and this is electric. This is decisive, immediate, makes his mind up, and then makes the move. And there's no deviation from the move. And this is the sign of a potential world champion. I like what I'm seeing.
And he sort of found a part of the racetrack where he knew he could get past his cars, and he was going around, wasn't he, lining them up, and pouncing at the same place every time.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on there, and because he had to duck back underneath Michael Schumacher there, recalibrate the braking point for the turn 5 corner, because now he's on the inside, he's dirty, he's out of position completely. And, you know, there's an awful lot of changes need to be made behind the wheel when you're slithering up the inside like that.
Tim from Kingston upon Thames, he sent us an email saying, is this a big save for Webber? Vettel is still over 20 points behind. And in the early part of the race, it looked like Mark was in a fair bit of trouble.
For me, this was a no-go, a blind alley. I think it was a hugely adventurous call to pull him in at that stage. On hard tyres, when clearly the soft tyre was the tyre to be on at that stage, they lasted longer than most people thought, and as a result, you'd have to say Mark Webber, if he picked up a 6th, 7th place, you'd say that was about as good as he can. To get on the podium was a remarkable result for what actually happened, and full marks to the people who made that decision. You know, it's not the first time that Red Bull have made very good decisions around, you know, stopping for tyres. We saw recently with Vettel wait till the very last lap or thereabouts. So they obviously have got a good grip on this strategy.
OK, now sometimes access that the fans get to Formula One isn't as good as they would like. However, on the F1 forum, the access for the fans is fantastic. So if you've got any questions for Martin Whitmarsh, the team principal of McLaren, has just popped in, email them to us right now, f1@bbc.co.uk, f1@bbc.co.uk, and we will put those questions to Martin. How would you assess your race weekend here?
Well, obviously disappointing. I think Jensen drove just a solid race, and great race, put pressure on Mark, not quite enough at the end, but scored valuable points. Lewis, then obviously very disappointing. I think he drove well this weekend, disappointed not to be on pole. You know, inevitably the experts will take a view on what happened in the race. I think you got to overtake cars. I don't think this was a late lunge. I don't think he took excessive risk. You know, I'm not going to go into the large sort of blame analysis here, but I think that Lewis did what he had to do. He was in front as he approached that corner. I think he was unlucky. I think Mark was lucky to get away with it in the way that he did, but that's certainly my view.
Let's take a look at it. I thought that might be your view, and talk us through it as you watch the incident unfold, Martin. So here they are, wheel to wheel.
I think at that point he's got the lead going into that corner. I think he left a little bit of space, but you can always argue that he could have left more space. But I think as a racing driver, I think he went for an overtake. It wasn't a late lunge. He got past Mark on the straight, as you have to do when you're trying to win races and win championships.
Kubica did a similar move later on, very late in the race actually, and left his opponent just a touch more space. I have to say, I think Mark was lucky not to get a penalty there. I would have, if I'd have been in the stewards, I'd have said racing incident. I've got to be honest, that's what I said in commentary, and I stand by that. But it was a close shave for Mark being slightly out of order. But Lewis says he didn't know he was there. Well, where was he going to be then?
Oh, I think Lewis thought he was a little bit further back, but again, I don't think Lewis nor we are trying to attack or criticise Mark. He's a racing driver too, but I think the important thing is that this wasn't, you know, a late lunging attempt at overtaking. I think it was a very respectable overtaking manoeuvre. I think he was very unlucky to come out of it like that.
Yeah, Martin, I'm sorry, I seem to be loggerheads with the two Martins here, because for me, I think that Mark Webber did everything that you would expect. He stayed on his line, he didn't deviate from it, and if you're telling me that Lewis Hamilton was ahead of him, well, that's clearly not the case from what I've been saying. He may have had a nose and a front wheel ahead.
If you watch the footage there, he was clearly ahead of him.
What, the whole car? Are you crazy?
No,
not at all.
I didn't say whole car.
No,
he was ahead. The head means the front of the car is in front of the other car.
But you forget the position on track. Mark Webber had the inside line for the turn to the left. For me, it's a racing incident. There could never have been a penalty in my view, and I think the stewards got it absolutely right.
Again, I don't think we're here, and neither Lewis nor I are attacking Mark for what happened, but I think at that point Lewis is clearly ahead. Legitimately, when you are ahead, you can take the line. He left some space. With hindsight, we can say he should have left more space, but I don't think that was a reckless manoeuvre by Lewis. I think he was incredibly unlucky to come out of it in the way that he did.
It'd be interesting to compare that with Kubica when he did a similar move later on. Maybe we can get that up. But meanwhile, shouldn't you have pitted Lewis much earlier while he was really struggling on pace so that he wasn't behind Mark Webber in the first place?
Well, the reality is, once you'd had a safety car, he never had the gap. Here, you would have 24 seconds to come in and out, plus 4 or 5 seconds for a stop. So he never had the gap. We were gapping all the time until we stopped. We were gapping. Mark was fortunate and drove well to get through the traffic. So you couldn't, once there'd been a safety car, you were not able to stop unless you had 28 seconds around there. He didn't have 28 seconds at any stage during this race. So the gap was growing. When we saw it wasn't going to get to that, Mark had got clear of the back markers, then we had nothing to lose but to pit at that point.
Okay, Matt in London and plenty of other people who got in touch to say, why don't McLaren leave their cars out too long on the first stint? You just had your answer. Another email then, John O. Dixon. Will you continue to advise Lewis not to change his driving style?
No, I think Lewis is a great driver. I think, again, last weekend, or 2 weekends ago, I think he took too great a risk, and he knows that. This weekend, I think that was a racing incident. I think he did the right thing. I don't think he made mistakes. But if a car's in front of you, you've got to overtake. If you overtake another racing driver, there is an element of risk. They're not always going to be compliant. And, I think he was very unlucky with what happened there. But are we going to advise him? I mean, the fact is, he's very disappointed. We're disappointed today. We've got 4 races to go. There's 100 points up there. He's within 20, he's less than 25 points from the lead of this championship, and he'll carry on trying to win races and win a championship.
But have we got 4 races to go? We keep hearing maybe Korea's not going to happen, just to swerve off message there a little bit, but it is significant for the championship
it could
battle.
be huge, couldn't it?
Yeah.
I suppose another thing that's significant is the way that the guys are driving at the moment. We can actually have a look at the Lewis Hamilton Monza moment that Martin mentioned there. In your opinion, is this guy driving like a world champion should? There's been all sorts of talk this week about consistency, Martin.
Well, Lewis is a hard charger, and you know he could turn up here and show us 20 examples of where he was pushing his luck and it paid off with a brilliant move, and he went on to win the Grand Prix. I think that is very similar to the first corner in Valencia, where he stuck his wheel into a dangerous position and left it there, and it was virtually guaranteed to get knocked off. There's a point here where...
Well, in reality, that's very similar to the incident we were just talking about two minutes ago.
Absolutely.
So Lewis can't be wrong in both of them. I would say that was more wrong than what happened today.
Martin, I would say that the person who's the luckiest man on earth, particularly when you look at his tyre and what has happened, the wheel, the tyre coming off the bead and just hanging on for dear life, I think Mark Webber can justifiably leave here and count his lucky stars. One, the suspension wasn't damaged in the shunt when he hit Lewis, and one, when you have a look at the tyre, it's just unbelievable how it stayed all that distance of a race.
Absolutely. As usual, I agree entirely with you, Eddie.
Nothing changes on the F1 forum. Craig Rippon, Martin, why do the Red Bulls only seem to be able to pass by taking out your drivers? I thought you'd enjoy this one.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think there's no doubt that Mark is a robust driver. You know, he's made a few robust manoeuvres, but, you know, I'm not going to sit here and criticise Red Bull. Our job is to focus ahead now. Disappointed today, but you know, both of our drivers are within one race win, 4 races to go, 100 points on the table. We've got to go for those.
Is your car robust enough? Because when Vettel took the bite out of the side of it, he carried on in Spa. Lewis dropped out in Monza. Webber carried on today. Do you need a more beefy suspension?
Well, I think we've taken Spa. I think if you're T-boned at that sort of speed and it goes through your radiator, I don't think any car is going to be robust enough for that. I think it is. You don't expect to, you know, I think, again, we've had a situation where Mark was very lucky today, Lewis was unlucky, but, you know, you've got to design the car for what you expect to happen to it. Generally, it's robust enough.
OK, Martin, thank you very much. And it wasn't the race result that would have led to you deciding one driver or another for the next few races, so you're hanging on in there with 2 potential world champions.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you very much, and we'll
Cheers,
allow
Martin.
you to go and crack on. Eddie, Lex Townsley on the F1 forum got in touch on Twitter. Tell Eddie to stop being so controversial. That must be the only person in the whole of the United Kingdom getting in touch telling Eddie to be less controversial.
What have I done now? Come on, give me an example.
I can't think of anything. I can't think of anything in the last 2 years. Let's have a look then at some more interesting driving from today. Michael Schumacher, he had an interesting afternoon, Martin. Ended up taking out both of the drivers for his former team, Sauber.
Well, EJ was just saying before we started, what a shocking afternoon Michael had. When we said that about him in Canada, he got quite upset with us, but he did have a miserable day, didn't he? I mean, if it was moving, he tried to run into it, didn't he, at some point?
Martin,
Here we go.
Let's just ask this question. If Michael Schumacher was not Michael Schumacher driving as he is currently driving inside Mercedes, would he be in the seat next year? My guess is no.
What would you do if you were his team principal watching this kind of stuff on the track?
I'm sorry, I'm going to be controversial this time. I would sack him. He's clearly not good enough on this performance we've seen today. Clear. He is not doing anywhere near as good as his teammate. His teammate is up the front. I'm sorry, there was some... And Michael may be upset with me. So be. My opinion is I didn't think that Michael did himself justice or the legacy that he has, 7 times world champion. He should not be putting his reputation and his legacy at risk by doing this kind of race. Simple.
Bearing in mind that Michael has got a car that's hard to drive. At times, he's matched his teammate, but he's actually been comprehensively out-qualified by Nico and at times out-raced by him. Has Michael improved over the season? You said in Canada, if this was a rookie, we wouldn't think he's good enough for F1.
He's up and down, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's up and down, and I thought the first incident wasn't his fault at all. When this Sauber, I think Kobayashi took
You liked him after Hungary, do you remember?
A
You
late
said
lunch. I
a
think Michael
turnaround,
has had some solid race. I thought, you know, in qualifying, I thought he did a good job, for example, this weekend. But I don't think he's ever been that good in wheel-to-wheel combat. Where, you know, he won his championships way out front with the best car, best driver, you know, and got it all under control. He is often... I remember races where he just had to finish 8th or something to take a world title and still managed to run into everything. He's he's, you know, it's not his strongest suit, but he's really struggling, isn't he, amongst this field to do any kind of wheel-to-wheel action without contact.
So why is he still here, Eddie? If he's struggling as badly as you say he is, what's the benefit for him, the benefit for Mercedes, the benefit for Formula One?
I'm at a loss to answer that. Where is there an upside? Is there one? It's certainly for the fans. We love him, actually. I know he may find that sort of bizarre in my comment.
I'd love him to win a race, so it would be great to see Michael winning another Grand Prix.
I think he has been the quickest and possibly the most controversial but the most brilliant racing driver ever in Grand Prix racing. That's my view. And to allow himself, we've heard David interviewing him, and he now admits at 41 it's clearly not possible to do what you could do when you were 21. Why is he doing this? I just don't understand why he's putting himself through this pain. And, you know, I made a view, and I know it was reported, that I don't think he will be racing there next year. Well, I still stand by that, Martin, and I believe that the decision may be delayed into, we'll say, January or February, because it will depend on how good Mercedes are going to design this next year car and how good the tyres are going to be. And if it's clearly not good enough, I don't think he's going to do it.
Yeah, but why would he crystallise the misery now and end on this note? I think he'll see how the Pirelli suit his driving style, how the new car is, and whether Ross Brawn and his crew have pulled a rabbit out of the hat. But on this form, he's lost it in wheel-to-wheel combat, and Rosberg is blowing his doors off and will continue to do so.
The situation is that Michael, this was the most powerful news that we found out last year, not far off this time last year, that he was coming back. The world was full of excitement. What's going to happen? Will he win races? Yes, he will. No, he won't. But the facts are that he's got away with it and will get away with it one year. I am so interested in his legacy. By that I mean no one will probably ever touch 7 times world champion. And as a result, if he does another year, I've no doubt that it will be impaired. It will damage what that reputation is. This year, he took a very brave decision. He took on the guys. The car wasn't good enough. He didn't get it done. Now retire again, and then there will be no pain. The problem is, if he does it next year and doesn't win, he will be slaughtered. It'll be terrible.
Well, we've heard from EJ. We've also heard from you on this as well. Had a tweet here that says from Uabaru, please hit EJ over the head with one of those artistically placed plants. How on earth could he say that about Michael Schumacher? And then someone else says, I actually agree with EJ about MS. That's from Beckaroo74. And Cumerford says, get Schumacher in the forum. He would be great. Well, hopefully this is good enough for you. Here is Michael Schumacher, kind of in the F1 forum, speaking to Lee McKenzie.
Michael, you seemed pretty much in the wars out there today. It seemed that the youngsters were ganging up on you.
Had a few more contacts than appreciated, but it's one of those races.
Tell us about the first one with Kobayashi.
Well, I didn't really think he would have been able to make a move like this, but then he did. By the time I saw him, it was too late, and then he sort of bumped into me. I don't know whether he was really alongside or whether he just made a very late break and dive into it. Because I don't see the pictures and I don't know exactly what was going on, I can't judge it. But the consequence was that I was out and touched the barrier. I wasn't very comfortable then because I thought we may have damaged the suspension. So I went in for a check, changed tyres. And then obviously what happened with Heidfeld, that was basically the deciding factor not to score any points today.
Okay, and have you enjoyed your experience in Singapore up until this point as a night race, the first time you've done that?
I put it this way, the last part of the race was consistent and was okay. Car was handling even with the damaged corners that we had, front, right, rear, left. But it was drivable, it was okay. The first part, no, I didn't enjoy it all because my rear tyres was just falling apart so badly. I was just a passenger rather than driving the car.
The tyres seem to take an awful long time to come in this circuit. Was that the same in your car?
No, they were okay for the first laps and then just went away lap by lap. It got so bad, it was not good at all.
Well, interesting to get the thoughts of Michael. And actually, I have to say, on Twitter, people have generally supported Michael in his return this season. But today, there's a few people saying, actually, I think maybe Eddie and Martin have got it spot on, and perhaps Michael needs to look at what he's doing.
Well, I'm not as strong on it as Eddie is. I think he should, this time, and he's got to give it another. What's the point in bailing out now? The first one we saw, that was Kobayashi's fault. They were in traffic. He got in too deep and had to turn it into an overtaking move. And I know what it's like seeing those things when the mirrors are up here. If you don't know they're coming, you're not looking out for them. Michael would have been busy looking at the back marker at the time. So, and some of the other contact, bits and pieces were his fault too.
Okay, now we've had a few tweets and emails from you guys at home asking whereabouts we are for this week's F1 Forum. Well, the way that the paddock works here, of course, when we are in Europe, we all move around and we have these huge, great big motorhomes, so the big Ferrari motorhome and the big McLaren brand centre, as they refer to it as. But when you come a long way away from home, and if you look down there, you can see all of these individual buildings and you can see the team names on the side. So you've got Mercedes there, Red Bull next door to them. We've got the FIA. You can just about see the FIA letters just there. And we are actually at FOM. Formula One Management and Bernie Ecclestone have given us kind permission to turn up here and do the F1 Forum from here. And we were keen to speak to Bernie. However, he likes to zip off before the end of a Grand Prix, doesn't he, Eddie? He doesn't hang around.
Well, he likes to keep us in touch, I would suggest, with the stewards, but then I shouldn't be just telling that openly. But he likes to know what's happening, but he does scoot off before the last 2 or 3 laps.
And you thought you were in trouble after talking about Schumacher. Now you're really in trouble.
I'd be barred anyway, so who cares?
Check your voicemails. Bernie will be on the phone. But let's hear from Bernie Ecclestone now, because during the Grand Prix, Eddie sat down with his old sparring partner to talk about a whole raft of things, including, of course, that Korean Grand Prix.
Bernie, first time BBC has been allowed into your home at the Grand Prix. We're deeply honoured. Thank you very much. I've just a couple of questions I'd like to put to you before you leave, and that is, over all of the years that you've been associated in building this great sport, is there something that sticks out in your mind, in your memory as you sleep at night or whatever? What is the proudest moment that you've witnessed in these last years?
Well, I mean, I'm very happy with the way Formula One's grown over the years, 60 years now, and it's quite fantastic. And I suppose we could say perhaps putting this event on here in Singapore has been something that's not been easy, and I've been very proud that it's happened. And I think the people here are supportive, and certainly all the teams are. So the answer is probably here.
And surely that's the excitement of the night race, perhaps, or the emergence of Singapore has been, if you like, the commercial centre of Formula One now?
Not really. I mean, I suppose if we've been straightforward about it, the night race has been magic.
Yes.
And been received as magic. I was told I was a bit of an idiot to try and do this, but so I was lucky.
I've got to ask you the question. You've been quoted on the wire, certain reservations and about not being fully qualified yet. The race in Korea, have you got real concerns about that, or where do you see the situation?
Well, it's not good. It should have been inspected maybe 6 weeks ago, which it was inspected, but it wasn't passed. So we normally have a 90-day check before a race. Now we're sort of putting this off. It's quite dangerous what we've done, actually. But I mean, it's a case of do we cancel the race or not? So they say it's all going to be okay. So we hope they're right.
Bernie, a question we all have to ask, because we're all travelling the globe at the moment, and we see 20 races in the calendar next year, and including that is India. Where do you see the maximum level of races? Because we've heard Rome street race, we hear about Austin in Texas, we hear about various other circuits. And I'm just concerned as to where the limit you feel we can go to.
I think the 20 is as much as we need. For the teams and everything else, it's enough, for sure. So with these, we have to start looking at all these new venues and have a look at one or two of the old ones that are not really up to scratch anymore, and move on.
In a recent poll, BBC fans, they said the thing they most wanted in the future going forward with HD, high definition, is it something that you feel will be evolved with in the coverage that you're providing, or is it something you see in the longer term future?
No, I think what's being produced at the moment is very, very good. But I think that we will be moving to high definition probably next year.
Next year, we're absolutely delighted to hear that, I can tell you, and so indeed the fans of the BBC. And finally, thank you for speaking to us, but I can't forget that we've always, in our time, do you have any idea about succession, somebody that you feel that you've pinpointed that might come to help you and see the future of this great sport go on for many, many years to the future?
It's funny you should say that, Eddie, because I was trying to find the opportunity to have a chat with you about this.
We know that's the most insincere thing he said all day, but anyway, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much. You're an absolute joy to be here. Great pleasure for your hospitality. Bernie, top man.
Thanks a lot, Ed. Thank you.
That was very nice. Was that fun for you?
I've always had a remarkably good relationship. Most people are sort of...
loads of shouting. You've been screaming at each other when you were a team boss.
I always told him he never paid me enough and he didn't realise how good we were at Jordan, and I'd be always on the doorstep begging for more money, and eventually he'd pay it over. He called me a thief, a robber, everything. I said, when he called me a robber, I said, you've given me a great name for a rock and roll band, and we still laugh about that. But, you know, I've been here quite a while, and I think Bernie likes loyalty because he is the most loyal person. If you look at all the people that were started with Brabham with him, where are they? They're still here. He's
Absolutely
a great
right.
family person. He's got great principles. I'm a huge fan of his.
Did he ever lend you money to keep you in business at Jordan?
No, he lent me fortunes. Fortunes, Martin. I don't think I could have survived because, yes, he used to charge me a bit of interest on stuff like this, but, you know, it's not the kind of thing. Bank managers do not cash promises. We know that, and Bernie does from time to time. If he thinks it's a genuine case and he wants and he needs you to be on the grid, and I thought Jordan did enough to justify to be on the grid, so I never had any reservations about going to him and saying, look, we want to be in this race and that race. We are a little bit behind. We need to pay the engine manufacturer. We need to pay the tyres or whatever. And he fronted up the money. He took it back out of the money that we were due from the TV. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
It's, you know, in my world, I felt that he pays you 1 year behind. I just wanted it up front. That was all.
Well, I hope you've paid him back. A couple of important points to pull out from that. He doesn't sound very positive at all about the Korean Grand Prix, Martin, and that could have such a bearing on the title. If these teams are planning in terms of their maths, that there's 4 races left.
I mean, the logistics for starters. I mean, you see this lot packing up now to go off to Japan, and we rev up there in, what, 10 days, 10, 11 days' time. There's that, there's the points, there's the embarrassment if we don't end up in Korea, and it's very unusual for Bernie to just let something out like that if he doesn't want to send a message. That's quite powerful.
Yeah.
That suggests to me that it's definitely rocky whether we're going to be there or not. Although he said, they tell me it's going to be okay, so we should be there.
Yeah, but he said worried, you know.
Yeah.
He said, is it a case of us calling the thing off? I mean, that would have huge implications.
Alonso just going around behind us there, finally out of all of his press.
It's amazing, isn't it, to see the amount of people that follow these drivers down the paddock. Now, go on.
I just have to come back to that. He is the master of these situations. So let's not just think a lateral approach here, and let's just think about how he wants that message to get out. That is the surest thing to hit the newspapers in Korea.
Yeah.
And the way I think he probably wanted that message to go out was to say, hey guys, the embarrassment to your country, the whole of everything that you've set up, the sponsors that have involved themselves and want to be part of the great start of the Korean Grand Prix, they will be clamouring and knocking the door down of the government because it will be a slur on them for them not being able to produce this race.
Did Bernie ask you to ask that question then? Are you saying that he teed that up? He wanted to get that out there?
He most certainly did not. The interview was done at a moment's notice. I was scrambling for things to think about what I wanted to say, and I'm actually reasonably pleased because some of the things that I wanted to ask actually came out there, and they were absolutely at ad lib, and there was no pre-discussion whatsoever.
What I don't understand is, I mean, Singapore, Abu Dhabi, they're absolutely brilliant. They work, they're in a city, service culture, the fans turn up, the sponsors, the CEOs, everybody wants to be there. And then we're heading off to Korea. And you went to Delhi in the week, and that looked a bit of a mess,
work to do at Delhi,
to be honest,
yeah.
Considering we're there in a year's time. And it just doesn't quite fit. I don't know why we're taking these risks.
Well, my cousin lives in Austin, and I was Skyping him last night while we were in the hotel room being away from home. I said, you know, what's going on there? He said, no building work happening just yet. And obviously we're not far from Austin either.
Yeah. But, you know, the whole emphasis is slightly changing. I'm pretty confident that a road race, street race, will happen in Rome.
Yeah.
And that will be an exciting venue. And I think that's what suddenly races are more exciting. This was an exciting, being part of the city, instead of being out in the wasteland. I have to tell you that I believe motor racing and Grand Prix racing is slightly changing. The emphasis is becoming back. We're able to have safe races in streets, and that's what's happening.
Another message that he was sending out there was to the traditional European heartland of Formula One. He said some places are looking old, bit tired. We have to think about stopping those. I'm sure wives and girlfriends at home breathed a sigh of relief when they heard him say 20 is the limit. But there's also pressure there on a few tracks, and they'll be thinking, are we for the chop here?
Well, I mean, that's a great negotiating tool as well, isn't it? I mean, the last race next year is 4 weeks before Christmas, isn't it, or something?
It's right at the very end of November.
It's an amazingly long season. So every time we lose one in Europe, we head off to Korea or India or somewhere. But somebody told me today who really ought to know that there is no chance there'll be a race in Austin, Texas, but that's
Really?
a 2012 event.
Is that my cousin as well?
Apparently the local councils or
Right,
whatever they
okay.
are had a meeting and gone, okay, thanks for letting us know we're having a race around here. But let's see. There's time to go on that one.
Okay, and finally, you ready for HD next year?
I'm never at home at a week.
We're not HD ready, are we?
I'm not HD ready.
The amount of work you guys are giving me at the moment. Listen, I am in retirement. I want to advise you of that. This is not retirement. This is 4.5 hours of slog, eh, Martin?
Do we get paid extra for it?
I wasn't bringing up that. I mean, my money is the least thing in my mind. But anyway, leave that aside. But the travelling is a slog.
Yeah.
Anyone who thinks this is easy, we're absolutely dripping here.
No, it's
We're
a very
outside.
hard life you have, Eddie, honestly.
It's not that hard.
It's all
It's
work
really
for
not
Eddie.
that
He
hard.
never plays at all at Grand Prix.
We
He
get
just-
paid to watch telly, as my son
Okay.
reminds me frequently.
Yeah, well, you heard it here first. Bernie, F1 2011, high definition. We all wanted that, didn't we? Let's have a little look then at a man who will look great in high definition, Robert Kubica. Some of the overtakes he was pulling out were absolutely phenomenal. I mean, this would look fantastic, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they're great moves. I mean, he's got quite an unfair advantage at this point with a fresh set of tyres. Bit surprised Renault didn't put the super softs on, but you'd have to say they got it right because he had all the grip he needed. Petrov there, everybody getting all flustered when he was on their tail. And he just had the confidence and nothing to lose, did he, frankly? Nothing to lose at all.
David made the point that he thinks that this could perhaps be the nail in the coffin of his teammate Petrov, because Petrov was just being left behind there by Kubica on a charge. He said you need two top-line drivers, David.
Yeah, I mean, Dave's right, but, you know, you're not comparing apples with apples at this
No.
stage because...
Fresh tyres.
Yeah, I mean, Petrov's tyres would have been on since the first safety car period.
OK, well, let's hear now from Robert Kubica.
Robert, it seems that you didn't just get some tyres when you came in after that puncture. You got a whole list of adrenaline and excitement and everything, and that carried out onto the track. Just tell us about those closing stages. You overtook so many cars.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good fight. Unfortunately, we have to pit in because of the puncture. And then I was in difficult situation on one hand because I was 13th and had nothing to lose, to be honest. I had better tires, better shaped, so I have some advantage, but still in Singapore it's not easy to overtake. But to be honest, you know, I have nothing to lose, so I'm racing most of the times around very quick cars, maybe out of the position, always in front. This was one of the few occasions when I have slow cars in front of me. I managed to overtake them very quickly, which was important, to don't lose time and to regain as many positions as I could. And I think I couldn't regain more because Barrichello was half a minute in front. So good race on one hand, because if someone would tell me that with one stop more I will finish still 7th, I will sign it straight away. But a bit unlucky because of the puncture. I don't know, to be honest, where I took it. Thank you.
Well, well done, Robert Kubica. A really big asset he is to Renault. And Christian Horner has popped in to join us. And let me just check. No, your eyebrows aren't too singed, because I imagine Heikki Kovalainen wasn't far from you when he stopped out on fire during that Grand Prix.
Yeah, no, that was a bit cheeky. I mean, he could have at least gone down to McLaren or Ferrari. But, yeah, no, it was obviously pretty smelly up there with all that far foam as well. But thankfully, nobody got hurt.
A good race to watch from our point of view. What was it like on the pit wall, where you get so absorbed in just what your two drivers are doing and nothing else, really?
It was long. I mean, 2 hours. It seemed to be a very, very long race. But, you know, Sebastian harried Fernando all the way. He tried everything that he could. I think the difference ultimately was the lap in qualifying yesterday between the two of them. And Mark drove a fantastic race. I mean, we took a gamble with the strategy. We stopped him on the first pace car, which is an awfully long way on a hard tyre. But... yeah, he made that work. He made some great passes, and you know we had the pace to get both the guys up there on the podium.
Christian, I know this forum and a lot of the racing talks about the drivers, but I want to talk about the team. This was, in terms of consolidation, a very major weekend for you, because you came away with a lot of points for your team, a lot of other failures that weren't able to come, and it actually puts you being #1 team next year, particularly if you keep going like you are.
From a team perspective, it's been a big race today. I mean, we outscored all our main rivals on the team side, and you know Mark's extended his lead in in the Drivers' Championship. Seb's closed in a little bit. And obviously one of the main rivals, Lewis, didn't score today. So, ultimately to have won the race would have been fantastic. But, second and third is still a very big team result.
Why did you match the Ferrari strategy? Why didn't you stop before or after? Because otherwise you're always going to be second.
We were looking to try and get in earlier, but basically 33 seconds was a magic number today with a slower speed limit. And it meant that the gap that we were looking to was going to bring Seb right out behind Hamilton, and the McLarens being about a second and a half slower than both Sebastian and Lewis. Both Sebastian and Fernando. If we'd have pitted early and come out the back of him, we would have lost the time. As soon as then Hamilton pitted, it created a window. We went for that window. Unfortunately, Ferrari covered us. If we'd have gone longer, the tyres were losing performance, the outlap would have been quicker, we'd have just been further behind. So the only opportunity we had was on the undercut.
Yeah, McLaren think the undercut was nearer 30 seconds or so that's quite interesting. But how did you read the incident, the contact between Mark Webber and Lewis Hamilton?
Well, I felt that I think it was Degrassi and the Virgin. He got a bit mixed up in it. It wasn't clear what he was doing. That compromised Mark into turn 5, I think. That gave Lewis a run down the outside, and then I just felt that he was just a little bit too aggressive. You can see on the replay, Lewis, has got ahead, but Mark's still got the inside line. He closes him aggressively, and contact's inevitable. And I don't know whether Mark was supposed to vanish or not, but unfortunately, it was too aggressive. In our mind, it was a racing incident, and the stewards did the responsible thing.
Martin Whitmarsh joined us a few minutes ago. His take was a bit different.
Oh, was it?
Yes, funny that, isn't it?
Don't worry, Christian, I agree with you.
I thought you might too. Talking about going forward from here, you kind of get the impression that if we'd have come here maybe a couple of months ago around the time of Hungary, there wouldn't have even been a question over whether Lewis was getting past your guys, because they would have been off in the distance. What can we read into the fact that we've got these new load tests now for the bib on the car, the front wing, the floor, and you seem to have lost what was a huge margin over McLaren, particularly almost 2 seconds?
Well, I think that margin was there again today, but Ferrari have made a gap. I mean, let's not forget that Fernando and Sebastian were a second and a half quicker at different points in the race than the McLarens. They'd pulled out an entire pit stop in hand pretty much to be ahead of them. Mark was on a different strategy, so his pace was always going to be that little bit different. But there was a big performance difference today. But as I said before the weekend, Ferrari have made a step, and they've been our closest rival. Ultimately, they've won the race this weekend, and they've got a competitive car at the moment.
Mark said in the interview, I think I caught earlier on, that he questioned the decision that you pulled him in. Can you share what he actually said, or what the conversation was about?
I think it went along the lines, "Are you serious, mate?" Was the question that
was that before he came in or after?
No, before he came in, because obviously the safety car had come out. They've got quite a lot of time to trundle back to the pits, and before the race we were looking at giving that strategy to whoever was ahead, because statistically it looked the safest strategy. But I felt that there was more upside for Mark, more downside for Sebastian, so we switched it at the last minute. We brought Mark in, and it worked out very well for him. And
so you took that call.
So ultimately, yes. With any strategy decision, ultimately, always somebody has to sign it off, and that somebody's usually.
And
me.
were you a bit shocked when he went out, because the hard tyre, the prime tyre in the beginning, looked a bit steady, didn't it?
Well, I just questioned. Before actioning it, I questioned, will this tyre go that far? And all the information that we had said it would. And the guys had done their homework and they got it right. And Mark made the strategy work with some great moves, a bit like you at Goodwood last weekend just before the crash.
At the revival.
Yeah, you never told us that, Martin, did you? You never shared that little story with us.
Christensen took me off the road in my A35.
How dare he? So your guys called it right in terms of the length the tyre would go. They called it right just about. This is what we went and filmed on your car not long ago, and you can see there the gap between the tyre and the wheel. How much further do you think that tyre would have lasted?
I reckon about another half a mile. That is just staggering. I mean, tyre machines are designed to do that, to take them off the rim, and that tyre has gone all the way from the contact that he had with Lewis to finish the Grand Prix. Mark rode his luck today.
Let's compare it to Vettel's tyre there, you can see it. What would that tyre have felt like to Mark Webber, Martin?
Well, he said he had a bad vibration, so it'll be turning a bit, and so the balance weights are in the wrong place.
He's got a very nasty blister on his left hand where the vibration has been so great.
Really?
You know, it's giving him a hard time.
It's those kind of forces on a driver that we never see, really, do we?
Well, I can't believe it hasn't fallen off
I
the
can't
beat.
believe it.
It's extraordinary.
Christian, that was a stroke of luck, and you need strokes of luck to win a world championship. And a couple of things. I think Mark Webber, this particular weekend, rode his luck. He didn't have it at the early part of the season, but full marks to him. He's emerging as such a solid character. I will just say one thing. You need to write a nice letter to your wheel manufacturer, because had it not been for a big side, obviously the bead on the inside of the rim is sufficiently big enough to keep the air in the tyre. It's a remarkable situation. I can't believe it.
No, absolutely. I mean, Mark has had so much bad luck in his career. You know, his time that he had a bit of good luck, he's had a bit of good fortune this year. He's riding that. Today is a clear instance of that, but as you said, our wheel supplier has done us proud today.
Indeed. Well, will that luck bring Mark Webber the World Championship? We can hear from him right now.
Well, Mark, you might not have won the race today, but you're probably the luckiest man in the whole of Singapore, just seeing that checkered flag. Tell us about that.
Yes, interesting Grand Prix. You know, a lot of management going on with the car. The tyres at the end, there was nothing left of them either. So I knew obviously Seb and Fernando would disappear on the restart, and it was going to be a race with me and the McLarens. You know, the start went pretty well. Held position, and then we automatically, the race opened up immediately. Obviously, we opened the chess game early on, and we pitted and elected to come back out sort of a bit further than mid-pack, obviously, which I must be honest, I questioned with the team to see how that would work, and the guys, you know, I can't thank them enough. Obviously, it worked sensational. Then on the restart, picked a few people off. Obviously, well, when I caught Kobayashi, I thought, my godfather, if he's driving like this for 2 hours, I don't know how he's going to survive, but he was very, very entertaining to follow for a few laps. Managed to pass him. Michael was hard but fair, was good. And then Rubens drove very well. It was hard to clear Rubens. The Williams were strong in certain sections of the lap. Then on the restart, obviously, we all saw what happened. It's very difficult for, you know, with this, you know, we know there's back markers in the queue amongst the leaders. So I had to clear both virgins. First one was very good. Second one, he did what he could. I don't know if it was Timo or Lucas, but anyway, it was. I got out of turn 5, which is a crucial part of the lap, tucked up behind his rear wing, and Lewis, obviously being the hunter, was in a position to go for it, and he had to go. Obviously, turn 7 is a crucial corner. It's the only corner we can overtake around here. We went in there very much together. Obviously, Lewis was fractionally ahead, but obviously he's still got to try and make the corner himself. So both of us, I think, made similar contact to what he made with Felipe in Monza. You know, it can happen, and you know, I thought my race was over because straight away I had a very big vibration in the front. Anyway, we managed to dodge a bullet and keep going.
You managed to dodge the bullet. Lewis Hamilton unfortunately didn't. Do you think it was a fair move, just a racing incident?
Yeah, I think, you know, you're a brave man to bang wheels in these cars, you know, in terms of thinking you're not going to get away with it. And, you know, we've had some of it go on this year. All of us have had a little bit here and there, and some of it well advertised because there's crucial parts and you know, really pivotal parts of Grand Prix that happen, and that's what happens. And you know, you never want to put your car at risk, but sometimes when you know you're going to have a race with someone that deep and solid, then sometimes contact can happen.
And you're second in the championship. Fernando's managed to get ahead of you after today's success, but there really is all to play for. I mean, each race just shows you. No, you're leading. He's 11 points ahead. Oh, sorry, you're leading, but it just shows you that you really are, you know, in the hunt, as is everybody else. There's so much to play for. I mean, yes. Lewis has dropped back 20 points now behind.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to ebb and flow a bit more. We know it's a sensational championship for everyone to be watching and see. All the teams are very even. We've seen that. It's a young, fresh, exciting team with us at Red Bull, taking on the well-established teams and like McLaren and Ferrari. And there's a few world champions, you know, driving for the other teams as well. Seb and I haven't won a title yet, so obviously we're very hungry as well. So we're all in the game.
I'm sorry I demoted you. You deserve more after today's performance. Well done.
That's all right, cheers, no problem.
Driving like a world champion, isn't he?
He's driving fantastically well, and today's performance at a track that he came here not particularly fond of. You know, this is, in Mark's mind, his weakest circuit of the year. So to have got a podium out of it, he's very happy with that.
And finally, to you, Maz, thanks very much for your email. Why is it that Red Bull can take out the McLaren cars at will? Someone please let Mr. Horner know his team are racing in Formula One, not the World Destruction Derby Championship.
Yes. Absolutely, we haven't taken anybody. I think it was quite ironic, actually. Ron Dennis, came and saw me, gave me some words of wisdom on the grid today, and said make sure your drivers don't take anybody out today. And it was his driver took himself out in the end. So that was nothing to do with us today.
Okay, and finally, Brian says, any more tricks up your sleeve for the next few races? You like a few tricks up your sleeve, don't you, at Red Bull?
Well, I mean, we keep pushing. It's a development race between now and the end of the year. We've got new parts coming. We've got Thelma, our receptionist here this weekend, who's come out with some parts last minute. That's the kind of commitment that's going in. And those parts are on the car here, and the guys are doing a fantastic job back in the factory to keep the momentum going, to keep the performance going. And it's hats off to them. Part of today's result is obviously down to all that hard work.
That's teamwork for you. She said she's been at Red Bull 7 years, never been to a Grand Prix, and now here she is, having worked there for a long time.
She's too busy guarding the trophies.
And there's more and more to guard with every passing race. Listen, thank you very much. And we were just speculating about the Korean Grand Prix. If it doesn't happen, great for Mark Webber, not so good for Vettel.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There'll be a difference of opinion between our two drivers.
Yeah, right
but I think it'll happen. I think, they'll get it done. We were down there a few weeks ago. We drove a car around the circuit. It did have its final layer of tarmac to happen, but I think those guys, they're pretty committed. They'll get it done down there.
Yeah, just a layer of tarmac. That's all they need in Korea. And we believe on Tuesday they put that tarmac down, then they'll test it, and who knows, maybe we'll be there in a few weeks or maybe not. Thank you very much for joining us. So let's actually hear now from Christian's other driver, Sebastian Vettel.
Congratulations, Sebastian. A really tough couple of last laps, but you just couldn't quite get there.
No, unfortunately not. So I had a good start, and I'm very happy with the progress we've made. Obviously, we got a lot of criticism over the last couple of races. I think we were just a little bit unfortunate too with the conditions and how things came together. But the good thing is we come here from the dirty side and still get a better start than the guy from pole. Other than that, obviously, the first stint was quite tricky. I had to leave a bit of a gap to cool the car. It's quite hot here, and it's very tough on brakes, this track. But just before the stop, I caught up again, and we knew that the window will come very soon. Obviously, the tires didn't say thank you after I pushed for a couple of laps, but it was close at the stop. I had a little bit of a wobble on the way out. Otherwise, I think it would have been close, but I think Ferrari had a good stop too. Nonetheless, Red Bull has the best pit stops. And after that, it was tight. I think we had a little bit more pace in the car than what Fernando was running. Obviously, he was in an easy position because he just controls the gap on a circuit where it's nearly impossible to pass. The closer you get, then you start to slide. You lose the grip, all four tires, and then you drop back a little bit, then you start again. So it's a little bit of a vicious circle once you get stuck behind someone who is similar in terms of pace. But I think the most important is that we were quick all weekend. Yesterday a little bit was missing, and today I think we achieved the maximum, so good points.
Tell us about the pit stop. You came in at exactly the same time as Fernando Alonso. Was yours a planned pit stop? Did Red Bull react to Ferrari, or did Ferrari react to Red Bull?
I don't know. I mean, obviously I was in the car, so I'm busy right until I stop in the box. So I don't know, who came out first. But I think.
But do you think you should have stayed out an extra lap, or it was all perfect timing?
No, I think it was our best chance we could get. Put some pressure on Ferrari because, as I said, we have the best pit stops, and unfortunately they had a clean one too. We had a bit of a wobble on the way out, which was my mistake. So. Doesn't help, obviously, but you could argue a lap earlier, but I think the gap wasn't yet there, and I think both teams were looking for the same window. Both of us were sliding quite a lot with the options at this stage, especially the rear tires came off, and then staying out longer I don't think would have worked, because simply the hard tires or the new tires you put on the car then just give you so much more stability and more grip. So you're fighting with numb or with different weapons. Obviously, if you're still sliding around on options and the other guy just did his stop and comes out on a new prize.
And just finally from me, the championship is still very much alive for the 5 who were in contention. Obviously Lewis didn't score any points today and he thinks it's going to be tricky for him, but do you still feel you're very much in the hunt for this World Championship?
Yes.
The only answer he could give, really. What we do know is it's going to be super tight, and it's all about the smallest margins, isn't it? You know, touching the wall in qualifying yesterday, the mistake in the pit stop when he came out in second gear, and we can have a look at that now. It's these little things that could make the difference between winning the world title and not, Martin.
Yeah, look in the middle of his dashboard there. He's forgotten to put it into first gear. I mean, as it happens, he's still behind Alonso, who's about to emerge then. I don't think it would have got him in front, frankly.
Yeah.
But it's the detail. But Red Bull should have won this race. Sebastian Vettel should have won the race, should have been on pole. And unfortunately, that little rub against the barrier in a couple of scruffy corners in quali, overdriving, spoiled it for him.
GHNBF has said that they met Thelma on their work experience at Red Bull, and she does indeed guard the trophies very well. And Lynn_Austin69, is the forum pre-recorded? No, because we just had a Grand Prix and there would have been no time to pre-record it, and I wouldn't have been reading out your tweet if this wasn't live. Let's talk about Fernando Alonso. What a day for him. Let's have a look at the celebrations at Ferrari. Not quite the celebrations that we saw a couple of weeks ago in Monza already, but all the same, this will mean so much to a team that are really in the driving seat.
Well, we talked about motivation and we talked about momentum. Two critical and very important words, and that's everything that's happening at Ferrari at the moment, because they're concentrating on one driver. They've forgotten about the World Constructors' Championship, in my view, and they are concentrating on winning this championship with obviously Alonso. He's the darling of the crowd there. Faith and everything else, particularly after what happened in Hockenheim, it's all gone his way and he's on a roll.
Perhaps that's it. Backing Fernando could give him the title. Let's hear from him.
Fernando, congratulations. Likes to flag victory. Well done.
Yeah, it was good. Obviously, not easy race in terms of physically conditions. Also the mechanical side, not easy as well for brakes, etc. But you know, we tried to keep control everything, avoiding the walls in terms of driving style as well. So after the first stop, when we hit the prime, the race was more or less under control.
Were you surprised when you looked in your mirrors and you suddenly saw Sebastian Vettel with just those dying seconds to go?
Well, it was difficult to overtake here, so I was not too worried for the gap with Sebastian. I was more worried about the people we were lapping, because we found some difficult groups that they were fighting each other. So at the end, that was the main concern, not the distance.
Do you think your experience of 2 World Championships is letting you control these races and manage this situation? I mean, you've jumped right up in the World Championship standings again today.
Yeah, it was a good race. For sure, experience is help in some type of situations, but on the other hand, we know that with the close fight we have, Red Bull, McLaren and Ferrari, we know that 1 or 2 tenths is better than all the experience you can have. So any new part that we bring in the car, etc., is more welcome than any of the experience.
Well done, Fernando Alonso. Another win for him. Would the person in London who's pressing a button saying this is a pre-recorded programme not press it? Because Twitter is awash with people saying that this isn't a live show and that you don't need to call or text. The F1 forum exists for your calls and for your texts. We are indeed totally live and not pre-recorded, unless you're watching us on the iPlayer, in which case it all gets very confusing. But right now, I'm live. Guys, thank you very much for your company. It's been a long one, and I'll see you in a month's time, because no Japanese Grand Prix for me. I will be Commonwealth Gaming.
Why are you getting a freebie, and why are you getting a week off from all of this travel?
Because Lee McKenzie, who's over there with a big smile on her face, has been doing such a
far
brilliant
prettier than you,
job.
I have to tell you, Jake. We
Come
will
on,
be
Lee.
looking forward. I'm going to personally look after Lee through her audition and front of house. Lee, I am looking forward to working with you.
Well, Eddie, I am kind of looking forward to working with you.
What's that supposed to mean, Marty? It's not a put down.
Kind of.
There's a bit of doubt in there.
What colour of shirt should I wear?
We will
Lilac
dress
seems
you
to be in.
properly. Maybe that's not quite the right thing to say to a lady, is it? But we'll give a hand in the action.
Right, well, there you go. That's yours.
There's just a taste of what you got to come, Lee.
At this point, I'm going to pot out of the whole conversation because it's all getting very messy. Very best of luck in Japan. I will be tuning in. I know that you will do an absolutely fantastic job, and I will leave you to close the show. I'll see you in a month's time.
Look what we made out of
Good one,
Jake.
mate.
What do you think we're going to make out of Lee? We're going to make you into the absolute megastar that
Well,
you deserve
I
to
cannot
be.
wait for this. I need to get some rules on refereeing David and Eddie before Jake goes anywhere. So I think that's the first thing. I'll be losing my special ears, and I won't be demoting Mark Webber ever again. I think he handled that quite well. But I'm so looking forward to Japan. I really can't wait. Eddie, your thoughts on today?
I thought you were going to talk about thoughts on Japan. I'm going to look after you so well. I'm going to guide you through it.
Yes.
I'm going to hold your hand, and you're going to be amazing. On today, I thought potentially it could have been a very boring race, but it was anything but. I think it was very emphatic how Alonso dominated, and you can see the experience of being double world champion. He was emphatic. Today was a very big day for him and his title hopes.
Martin?
I think they should shorten this race like they do at Monaco. That's the other race that doesn't go the full distance, because it does seem a long way, doesn't it? But it was brilliant. The safety cars helped it as ever, and I'm just massively impressed by Alonso and Vettel today. I would have loved those drivers on my CV, that's for sure.
Thanks very much, guys. We're going to head off before they turn the lights off in Singapore, and I'll be seeing you from Japan. Thanks for watching.
It's close to midnight. Something evil's lurking in the dark. Under the moonlight, you see a sight that almost stops your heart.